are officially with Maha al Musa. First of all, Maha, thank you so much for being here. It's really, really a pleasure. I've done some very interesting webinars with guests, but this one for me is really special, really, for so many reasons, okay? So many reasons. So I thank you for being here, first of all. I thank all our participants, and we are going to launch the theme Bellydance for Birth. Without further ado, presenting you, okay? So tell us a little bit about you. How do you define yourself as a woman, first of all, and then as a teacher, as a researcher, as an author? How do you present yourself? We want to know.
Wow. Well, you know, I'm nearly 58 years of age, so I've lived quite a lot of life. And yeah, basically I am of Palestinian Lebanese origin. So a part of me, obviously coming from Middle Eastern roots, is very strong in my blood, in who I am. And I was brought to Australia when I was a 2-year-old in 1964. So I was born in Kuwait. And my father was Palestinian, my mother Lebanese, and they separated when I was 6 months of age. And my dad brought me to Australia as a 2-year-old. So I often see myself in the context of East meets West. So I am a combination of both, the Eastern roots meeting the Western privilege and the Western freedom and the Western education. So I really feel that I'm very, very blessed that I have come from both sides. So I have a very particular view on the world. I live my life very much as an inquirer. I love to discover new things. I love anything to do with the mystical. I'm always searching and looking for another way to look at life. What is possible? How else could we do it? I like to live without judgment. So I like to live with a very wise and conscious, open mind. And I think because I've come from, you know, a background like that, when you're taken from your mum, or when I was taken as a 6-month-old baby, it's a very difficult place to be in life, because not having the mother figure and not having the motherland and the mother tongue and the mother within, all of that being stripped away, I've had to find the mother myself. So I've had to mother myself, which makes me more open when I walk through life, because I've had to have a non-judgmental view of the world and look after myself from a heart place, a place of, you know, caring for myself, self-care, and also vigilance, because I was taken by my father, and my father was very, very abusive. So in the Western upbringing, I had a very strict and abusive father, which actually made me even more vigilant and alive to what was happening in the world around me. And being taken out of the culture and coming to Australia, which is a very racist country in many ways, I never ever felt that I fitted in here. So I was always seeking and searching, what is my place in the world? Who am I? What is my path? What is my gift?
Can I make a very personal question? Because I'm listening to you, and you know, things just are showing up. Do you think that the fact that you missed your mother, not only the mother, physical mother, but the motherland, influenced your work with mothers and motherhood? Like, because it sounds very obvious to me, like, okay, she became what she did not have. Big time. So you kind of grow into that void and you make something beautiful out of it. That's what it looks like to me.
Yes, absolutely. And whatever tragedy we have, or abuse we have, or trauma that we have, we can go both ways. We can either rise like a phoenix and give that gift back to the world, or we can collapse in a heap. And for whatever reason that we choose to rise is something in one's spirit and character. And I've always had a very strong character, a very strong spirit. So I have chosen to rise through the experiences of life. And coming to becoming a mother was the biggest awakening that I had, and the biggest healing of what had happened to me and the trauma that I'd experienced as a child. So yes, all that accumulation of
You know, I love that. And when I inform myself about you, of course, because I'm asking these questions for our guests, I already know about your origins, but it's nice for them to hear about this resourcefulness and this ability to bring something that was traumatic, you know, even tragic, and make something beautiful out of it. It's such a definition of the feminine wisdom in a way. So
Yes.
when I hear about your origins, I really hear about the wisdom of the womb directly. I make that connection directly. And it's beautiful when you see someone who is a living example of that. Not only someone who speaks about that, which is already nice, but someone who lives that.
Yes.
Who integrates that resourcefulness, that ability to alchemize, to do the alchemy of something that is not pleasant, is not potentially good, and you turned it into something so, so beautiful. And the opposite of what you didn't have, you nurture, right? You guide mothers to be, you guide women, even not mothers, even not pregnant women, into their womanhood, the womanhood that was not there for you as you grew up. I think that's so beautiful. I had to tell you that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, of course. And that's the whole thing that I often talk about, is I talk about the mystery. What is, when I get out of the way of life, what is the mystery, which I call my story? So if I can get out of the way of my life and open and create expansive spaces, then I can start to walk that embodied path, because then I'm not trying to control. And that's what we talk about in birthing, is that when we try to control birth, we miss out on what is there for me. That which is meant for me shall not pass me by. But am I looking? Am I intuiting? Am I feeling? Am I embodied without that sense of control? But trauma itself, the product of trauma is the need to control, which I completely understand, because I used to be like that as well. So we need to know, in order to walk the path of life, we can't just be free falling, because that triggers the trauma again. So I need to control everything. But in that control, I actually miss out on the gems and the jewels and the gifts that life is shining upon me. So when I can actually, and it's an incremental thing, you can't just suddenly be open without anything touching you. And sometimes I do, find that people who are coaching are giving good advice, but they're not taking into account that it's a step-by-step process, and everyone's steps are their own. Sometimes it's a leap, and sometimes it's a small step. And then sometimes we go back again, and then we progress. And sometimes we're in stillness, but in stillness, there is still rhythm. And within rhythm, there is still stillness. So we need to be able to, how can I accept all that life is showing me? How can I meet all that life is showing me, whether I like it or not? How can I get out of my own way to allow that mystery, my story, to reveal itself? And nowhere else does this happen but in birth. In birth, you must get out of your way. And funnily enough, you've got to be embodied at the same time. So you've got this juxtaposition happening. I've got to be in my body, but I've got to be outside of it as well.
We will get there. So the next thing I will ask you is about Bellydance for Birth, obviously, because that's the main theme of our webinar. But before that, I want to grab on what you're saying. And these are the things we cannot plan, right? Because we created the lineup for the webinar, but then live, you're speaking and questions are popping in my head. Questions that I think will be interesting for women, pregnant and non-pregnant. So I was just thinking, before we go into the Bellydance for Birth, about surrender. And about a core value that is connected with birth and pregnancy, but not only, which is the ability to get out of our heads and live a more instinctive, intuitive life as women, independently of being pregnant, not pregnant. We'll get there. But what can you offer us in terms of guidance, like practical guidance that you would give women in general, to surrender a little bit more and to release that need for control and being in the head and knowing how everything is gonna go, and that anxiety of wanting to live here and not here all the time? What would you say to women? What would your advice be?
The biggest thing we need to have is awareness, and we need to be able to be witness of ourselves. And this is an art and a practice, because we are run by our nervous system. The more we've had a trauma upbringing or abusive or anything like that, the more we are in fight, flight, and freeze and collapse. So that will take over any rational awareness, any ability to witness, observe oneself. So again, it's an art that takes time to cultivate. So when we feel our nervous system starting to flare up and someone said something to me or something has happened, be aware of where is that sitting in my body. So I have a somatic practice when I do counseling with women, is I can see where that story or that narrative lives in your body. So we need to come to that place where that story is living. Is it in my chest? Is it in my belly? Is it in my toes? Is it in my knees? Where does that story live? Can I have awareness to slow down? And this is the art that many women find very difficult in this modern day, is to slow down, because we live in a patriarchy where we're on the go all the time. So slow awareness, slowing down, connecting and embodying and being with that feeling, breath, meditation, all of those things that lie in stillness and stopping. And then we can observe and witness our behavior to make a different choice. And that's the key, because when we're running on a nervous system pattern that's always been there, it's very, very hard to slow down and witness oneself, especially then if we throw into the mix control, because that fear, fight, freeze, and control dance together. So how do we separate those? We must slow down to become aware, to observe, to be witness. And then that's how we practice getting out of the way of life. Because when we're in the way, we're often in fear. Yeah. And I'm not talking about when we're planning and creating and we're in our creative juices and that kind of a thing. I'm talking about those recurrent anxiety patterns that many of us get locked into from often childhood or something that's happened that keeps us in that loop. So it takes a great deal of awareness. And that, again, I'm nearly 58 years of age. It probably took me 50 years to fully come into that place after the birth of my third child. And that's what birth gave me, which we can talk about. But to break through those anxiety loops that I had. So this is where we need to be very gentle on ourselves. We need to accept what the emotions are. We need to be able to nurture those emotions, the little girl inside of us, and tell her it is okay. But that takes practice. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah, and you know, somehow we have to go against the current, because we live in a society that tells us that slowing down and stopping means we're worthless, because there is this association between extreme productivity and speed and worthiness.
Yes.
So we get into this mode, we accept it, we integrate it, and once we stop, even I can recall from my mother, you know, my mother, if she saw me stop for 1 second, she would tell me, "What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Get up, do something." You know, so it's so deeply ingrained that it is very hard for women these days just to stop and slow down. It's going to move so many values that we've been convinced are the values to follow, you know. It's crazy. And here we have the first question from Alexandria about the awakening or breakthrough that occurred when you became a mother. And we will get there. Before, you're going to tell us, please, what is belly dance for birth? Okay. What does it mean? How do you use it? To whom do you teach it? What kind of women can benefit from it? Take us on a little journey inside what you created.
Yeah. Well, I need to go back a little bit into my cultural roots to understand that. So I came to Australia as a 2-year-old. My father remarried when I was 7 to an Australian stepmother, and I became an Aussie. I didn't want to be brown skinned. I didn't want to have anything to do with my Middle Eastern culture, especially my Palestinian culture, because of Palestinian terrorists and all of the things that were going on in the 70s and 80s. So I wanted to hide the fact that I was Palestinian Lebanese. So it wasn't cool. I wanted to be a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. Then when I was 21, I went to Jordan to visit my Palestinian family on my father's side. And that's where the first awakening happened. Suddenly I was flung into a world of Arab women. I'd never been around Arab women before. I'd been around Aussie girls, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd always felt the fire of the Arabness inside of me, but I couldn't place it. And I didn't want to place it in Australia because I didn't want to be laughed at or ridiculed or have the racist comments, which I already did with my name and my color of my skin and all of that. So when I went to Jordan, suddenly I was with all the Arab women. And for the first time, I sensed that I belong. I belong somewhere. I belong to this incredible culture, this women's lineage that goes back thousands of years. And it was where I was
feeling. Can you pinpoint the feeling, the main feeling, when you found yourself amongst Arab women, Palestinian, Jordanian, Lebanese? What was that like in terms of feeling? What would be the word you would choose to define that experience of coming back home to your mother lineage?
It was not even a word. It was more the feeling of coming back to the womb, landing back in the softness of the mother's womb. Yeah. And it was that sense of belonging is a sense of I can now let go. I don't have to have my holdings and my constrictions in my body to protect myself anymore. I am accepted for who I am, coming home to the womb. And all the women, I'd never experienced that, were all telling me how beautiful I was, doing my hair with the henna, putting the wax on me. And suddenly it was as though I was no longer a round square peg in a round hole. It was like I just could breathe and soften and relax in that sense of belonging, because that is what we all want. We all want to be accepted and to belong. So that at 21 was a huge opening for me. And I could just let go and just be with the women. And I could be nurtured and I could accept their love without trying, without doing anything. I was loved. And that is an amazing feeling as a woman, to be loved for who you are without having to approve of yourself, to prove yourself, to be anything but yourself, to live from the heart and to feel as though you're wrapped in a velvet cloak of love. That's
why do you think that's so specific to Arabic women? Because I'm hearing you describe it and tears are coming to my eyes again, because I know that feeling. I know exactly what you mean. And I've never found it again outside of Egypt. In my case, I never found that environment ever again. I've been in circles of women, of course, teaching women all over the world, but in the West, I taught Egyptian women in Egypt, but that was not the core of my work. So in Egypt, I experienced that feeling that you're trying to describe in my private life, not so much in my professional life. And I never found it outside of the Arab culture. Why is that? What is about Arabic women when they come together that is so special and not repeatable, not observed in the Western world? What do you think that is?
I think it's, and I write about this in my book, Dance of the Womb, is that because women can separate from men, because we know in Arab culture, the men in one room, the women in the other. So whenever an emotion arises for us in the West in general, in terms of relationship or relating, we always look to the masculine to approve of us, to love us, to lift us up. Whereas with Arab women, what I found was the strength of the circle of the feminine was enough for us to be able to show that emotion and get that love and acceptance without having to go to a man for it. So it's a very, very tight societal connection of women, because we all are in this together. This femaleness is a togetherness. And a lot of it is around beauty and around the physical, the emotional, the spiritual. And it is like we play in that field of possibility together. We play in a field of approval. We dance together. There's no judgment. And I think that's the difference. What I found when I was with the Arab women, I wasn't being judged in a critical, harsh way, like Western women judge one another. They're in competition with the masculine, in competition with males. Because Arab women are happy to be together in that circle, they don't need the man to come in and approve of this way of being together. And that is a very significant thing about the culture. And people in the West think, oh, those Arab women, the poor things, they're all separated and they're walking 10 paces behind a man, all this stuff. As I say in my book, why would I want to be like a man? Why do I look up to a man as being the legacy of what I would leave in the world? I don't want to be like a man. I want to embrace the full feminine and womanhood and femaleness and strength of who I am. I don't look to a male to give me that. Yeah, I am happy.
Women take care of each other too, right? Women, this is something I observed in Arabic women. They take care of each other. There is like a maternal cloud over these women that is telling us, you have so many mothers, so you will mother other women and they will mother you. There is like a mutual caring for each other that then again I never saw outside, you know, in the Western world. I never saw it. It's like everybody is so on their corner in the Western world, and in the Arab world, women really take care of each other as if they were each other's mothers.
Because they value women, they value the feminine, they value females. In the West, we don't value females in the same way that we do in the Arab context. When you are valued as a female, then you feel valuable, you feel worthy, you feel as though I have a gift to give to this group that I belong to. So when I talked about before, landing into that soft, velvety womb of the mother, all women feel that, yes, because it's revered and it's respected. You know, in the Quran, they say that one man was walking with his old mother on his shoulders around the Kaaba 7 times, carrying her around and around. And then he stood at the feet of God and he said, God, aren't I wonderful that I carried my mother on my shoulders 7 times around the Kaaba at Mecca? And God looked at him and said, you have only repaid her for 1 contraction from your birth. Kish, get away. So the thing is in Arab culture, and especially in Islam, it's very much the mother. Who do you revere? Who do you respect? The mother, the mother, the mother. So, you know, that is very deeply instilled in our cultural roots, that the mother, without the mother, who are we in society? We can see now what's happening in the West, that mothers are not revered. They're not put on a pedestal. Get to work. Have your baby get to work. Don't breastfeed. Get to work. You are a $sign. Yeah. So the voice and the value of a mother, we don't see in the West. And that's what I've had a lot of difficulty with in my work in Bellydance Birth, to see the reverence and respect for what a mother is, for motherhood, for our spiritual growth through mothering. And that is a part, going back to what you asked, of what Bellydance Birth was about. So here I was, enriched and enlivened by these amazing women at 21. And then when I was 27, I found my mum in Lebanon. Amazing. After, yes, I found her. And when I was 33, I met her for the first time in Lebanon. So I reconnected to my natural birth mother. And I had been trying to get pregnant for 5 years. And 6 months after meeting my mother, I got pregnant. And I knew in that moment that it was, I didn't have something wrong with my body because I'd been trying for 5 years. I had polycystic ovaries. I knew that it was an emotional barrenness. There was an abandonment there. I was abandoning the mother within myself. And when I met my mum, 6 months later, I got pregnant with my first son in 1996. And that is where the penny dropped, And I realized how powerful my cultural roots were for me as a woman. And I had really not really embraced it, even though I'd had that experience at 21. It had always stayed with me, but it wasn't until I met my mum at 33, and that connection that sealed that circle for me within my womb. And that is where I became open to becoming pregnant. And we as women, our voices around fertility and conception and pregnancy and birth and mothering are often silenced or cut, or, you know, I've been a lot in the media where it's morphed and shaped in a way that isn't really your own voice by the West, by the media. Yeah. It's what they want you to be, to silence you, because if women were in their power in life and in birth, we would not have the kind of world that we have now. We just would not. If women's voices were free to be in our true self-referenced autonomy, we would have a very, very different world. And it starts in birth. And I realized that when I got pregnant with my first son, this powerful experience of giving birth, where is it? Where do I see it? Where do I hear about it? In the experience of spirituality and sacredness that I had giving birth to him in my full capacity, in my full openness, without a drug, without a doctor, without anything but my body and my knowing, and that blueprint of birth that was so strong, that is in every single woman. But most women live outside of their bodies. They're not connected to the true depth of the feminine blueprint, especially for birthing. We rely on an outsider. And so that's why I decided to put the belly dancing with the birth together. This dance of belonging, this dance of the womb, this powerful dance of the feminine and birth. These two go together like cheese and a biscuit. They just go together.
You know, Maha, I'm listening to you, and a word comes to my mind. Well, two words. One is kamikaze. It's very obvious that you are the kind of person who likes to challenge yourself and who is not afraid of the depth of life. Yes. And this is something that I want to bring. It was not in the lineup as well, but I'm paying attention, obviously, to everything that you're saying, and things are popping out. And please let me know what you think. Using Oriental dance for birth or for pregnancy, and the experience that can allow us to have as women, doesn't it have a lot to do with depth and the willingness to go deep into ourselves, and the willingness and the courage, because I think you need to be courageous to do that, to go into your instinctive self and to feel what you gotta feel, and to go into territories where the mind does not understand what the hell is going on, and the mind has no say, no saying. Doesn't look to you that is very challenging for most women? Don't you think that can be even scary? And one of the reasons why so many women are opting for C-sections and not going deep there. And of course, the medical establishment supports that, because there is a business side to the operations, to the hospitals, to the clinics. There's an entire business around taking women out of their depth and out of their instinctive wisdom, obviously. But don't you think there is a factor of courage, or the very rare, I would say, willingness to go deep into ourselves in the mix? Or do you think this is easy and it's cool for most women, honestly? Because, you know, I'm quite kamikaze myself, and I hear you, and it's so fascinating, but it scares the hell out of me. I say, oh my God, because I can feel the instinctive dive that what you propose really means. I can feel it in my bones, and you say, oh Lord, what can you say about that?
You know, when I go and I teach in China, and I teach midwives and obstetricians and doulas and everybody, I ask them a very simple question. What is the meaning of birth? What is the meaning of birth? What is birth? What is it all about? Most people in the medical profession will say it's about getting a baby out, to get a baby out safely and healthy. That's really all it is. It's a physical experience of just getting a baby out. So that is what women have been conditioned to believe. Yes, that is a part of it, but it is also a rebirth of the mother. It is a deep dive into the mystery of womanhood from our own perspective and what it is that we need to heal within ourselves and our mother line. Yeah. Most women are robbed of the spirituality of birth because it's become a medical event to just get a baby out. Of course, we want a healthy baby. Of course, we want to have a safe birth. But that is not the be all and end all. So what I do is I carve a pathway that says birth is a spiritual practice. It is a healing for humanity, not just to get my baby out, but in that process, who am I evolving into as a woman? And that evolution that I come to is what I am gifting the world with. I am gifting the world with an evolutionary experience of consciousness, of expanded consciousness. And that is why the belly dance is such a beautiful modality, because when we dance, we are working with energy. We are working with the spiritual body. We're working with the womb wisdom. And we need to work with that because we need to activate its wisdom. Then once we can do that, we are accessing its wisdom. Yeah. So now we are opening to what I love to speak about. What else is possible on this journey of birth? Not just that I've got to go and get my bloods done and, you know, get this baby out and be in a fearful place. Most women birth in fear. Yeah. So what is birth about? Ask yourself that question. What is your belief around birth? What is your attitude around birth? And then ask yourself, where did I get that? Who gave that to me? Why am I just following that? If it doesn't mean something at the depth and the core of who I am I able to go into that expanded consciousness and really feel into who is this soul that I'm bringing to the world? What is the purpose of bringing this soul to the world? What is it that I do when I birth my baby? 360,000 births a day on this planet. Most women are robbed of the experience because it is just being turned into a medical event controlled by someone on the outside who is supposed to be the expert. Nobody considers the mother and the baby hold their own expertise. The mother and the baby, the intelligence of the mother and baby dance together. What does that look and feel like for each individual unique woman and her story and her lineage? Yeah. So we are creating clear channels for our baby to be born into. So my baby doesn't have to go through all what I went through as a child. I can heal those aspects of my lineage. So my child starts from another place in that evolution. I'm not just going back and repeating the same old things.
No, Maha, the thing is that most women don't even know they need to be healed. They don't even know what is the mother wound. Most of the times, sadly, they don't question. You know, I have very interesting conversations with my mom, who's a very strong, hardworking person and who did her best like everybody, right? But she's human. And I remember, you know, my mom telling me about birth, like the most horrific experience, like, oh, you will see when you get there, it's going to be awful. Oh, this is like a terror movie. And throughout life, I've had like insights of the wounds I have inherited from my mom and from my grandmother and from the ones before them. And I have questioned them. And I have put those questions to my mom and say, Mom, why did you teach me that? Why did you pass this on to me? Why did you communicate this as a fact, not as your experience, but as a fact? And this self-awareness, this also willingness to admit, okay, I'm inheriting from my mother lineage and from my father as well, information that I may want to discard. So this is the first thing, is that most women don't even know that. They don't even know there is information we inherit from our mothers that we are probably better without. Then my question, or my second question would be, how did you feel each of your three births changed you as a person? So you're speaking about birth in a very beautiful, eloquent way as an opportunity for a higher level of awareness. I get that. How would you describe Maha before being a mother and Maha after giving birth to her children dancing? What is that person like before and after?
Before I had my children, there was a lot of that trauma sitting in my body, that the lost girl, the girl who felt that she didn't have a place in the world. Yeah. So that was because of the many reasons I've spoken about, because of my story.
Yeah.
But giving birth showed me the power that lay within me. There was a power in me that I was able to access and connect to, that was related to my grandmother. My grandmother gave birth to 9 children in our family birthing house in a village of Al-Kubab in Palestine, which is in my book.
Yes.
She was my mother line mentor. And I knew that what she did, if she could do it, I could do it. So what happens is when we give birth and we can be surrounded by women who carry this kind of lineage, this understanding of birth being an evolution and an expanded consciousness, as I spoke about, it gives us the permission to step into that world ourselves and create an intention of saying, I am going to birth in my full embodied presence. Yeah. So it is being given a present. It's being given that key into the awareness of self. And when we have this intention, then we don't know what could be possible for us. So I went from being lost to finding the depth of who I was as a woman. And in finding that depth, I opened the key into my spiritual self, my mystical self, into the mysticism of the world, into knowing that you can't evolve. And like when you talked about your mum, your mother could not evolve past where she personally evolved to. You can't. Nobody can. You can only be where you are in this moment now. I don't know in 10 more seconds what moment I'm going to be in, or tomorrow, or the next day. All I know is where I am now. Yeah. So that evolution is always ongoing with that intention to say, I am willing to have a 360-degree vision of life and of birth. What's in front of me? What's behind me? What's to the side of me? Am I willing to embrace all of that, regardless of how it looks? That is where birth is so, so powerful. You cannot give birth in your power if you are not willing to open that doorway into the dimension of wise womb wisdom. You must open that door. Now, unfortunately, in this modern day, we don't have many women who are walking their talk anymore. I was blessed. I had babies in 96 and 1999. Then I had a daughter in 2008. When I was 46, I had a home water lotus birth. Breastfed her for 8.5 years. There is no other woman on this planet who's done what I've done. In this modern day, I birthed her in 2008. There are not many women anymore speaking the language of birth that I speak. There's a very small percentage of us. Yeah. 98% of women are birthing in fear.
But you know, Maha, also, I think there is such disconnection from our instinct. So when
Yes.
I watched your course, I did your course, obviously, before I even invited you for a webinar, because it's a theme I adore. It's a theme which is in the history of Oriental dance. So even if you don't know it in practice, you will know it in theory if you know the history of Oriental dance. So it's all coming from fertility and pregnancy and birth rights. So we're not talking about something new. We're talking about the most ancient aspect of Oriental dance. But what comes to my head as I hear you speak is, yeah, I get everything that you're saying, But again, what you're inviting women to do is to go deep into their instinctive animal self. And that is something, it's not new because we've always been animals, fresh news, but it's new in the sense that women are totally disconnected from their instinctive animal selves. And we've been told collectively that is not something nice to dig in. So the intellect is nice, the mind is nice, the intellectual intelligence is nice, the masculine is nice, the feminine and the blood and the sweat and oh, no, don't go there. Let's clean it up in a good clinic and let's make it antiseptic and hygienic and pretty. Let's not go to the animal side. Let's not go to the instinct. That's not pleasant. That's not nice. So what you're proposing, which I love so much, obviously, and I connect to on such a deep level, again, I think it's asking for a lot from women. And we really need a new generation of women who are ready to go there and say, you know what? Yeah, I've been taught otherwise, but deep down, I know better. And I'm going down, baby. This is part of who I am. And this is, you know, as I was reading about your work, you talk so much about the parts of the brain that are activated when we give birth, right? And the fact that when we're giving birth, the mind is not in control anymore. There is this animal that comes to the surface, which has always been here. And how can women reconnect with their instinct? And how can all of this beautiful information that you bring that makes perfect sense can be a little bit more maybe easier to digest by women who are so afraid of their instinct? They don't even know what their instinct is. You know, at my school when I teach Bellady, Bellady, which is, you know, the common Raks Sharki Oriental dance, Oriental women do all over the Middle Eastern and African world, they are asked to go back to their womb and the instinct. Most women don't know what that is. What? Instinct? What instinct? Where? Where do I find it? Womb? My womb talks? My hips talk? Yeah, they do. They don't know.
Yeah,
It's
because we have an artificial world now, Johanna. What we have is we have a disconnect from Mother Nature. Yeah. Mother Nature is the nature within you. We only have to look out at the world and look at the rape and destruction of Mother Earth. This is in direct correlation to the destruction of Mother Earth within us. I say every baby is born on country. Our womb is our country. We are destroying the external Mother Earth and the inner Mother Earth. The other part of that question that you ask is sexuality. Birth and sexuality run together. They are the same parallel. I've got goosebumps. Most women, because of the disconnect from nature, because of us living in a patriarchy, because of being frightened of our bodies and intimacy together with one another, which is very evident in the Arab world. We're not scared of our bodies, yeah? But in the West, we're very frightened. It's not about, I can show my breasts, therefore I'm empowered. That's not the kind of elevation that we need. We need to be happy in our own skin, and we need to live that in our own skin. So I'll give you an example. I breastfed my daughter 8.5 years. Until she was 8.5 and she decided to stop breastfeeding. I was 54.5 when she stopped. I was in the worldwide media from 2012 to 2016 advocating breastfeeding and public breastfeeding. I would breastfeed my daughter 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age in public. Yeah. And I didn't care what anybody said, what anybody thought, because I knew my own truth. I knew my own child. That's all I needed. My body, my child, my choice, my voice. To embody that body that we are given doesn't require anybody's permission to tell me what I can and cannot do as a mother. I will do what I need to do, and I will follow my instincts. I say, I am the custodian of mother's instincts. I am. And I want every other woman to be the custodian of your instincts. especially when you have a baby, when you have a child, when you have that connection to the nature within you, starting through conception and pregnancy, you are connected to your child like nobody else is. You don't need people to tell you what to do with your child unless you ask, unless you are seeking that advice.
Yeah.
Then you have a voice, you have maturity, you have strength to ask for what you need, not to be manipulated and told you are lacking, therefore we will fill that lack with all this information that will put you up in your head and disconnect you from your head, your heart, your body. No, if I give birth to my baby, physiological birth, natural birth, I'm in touch with the nature within me. So everything that I do from that place just leads me down the pathway of instinct and knowing. So when you say, Johanna, that women are disconnected, it's because they are always waiting for that permission, for somebody on the outside to tell me. And in many ways, that's why my Bellydance birth program, there's no steps. There is no choreography. There's that inner dance. What is the dance with you and your baby that needs to come out in this moment now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not next week. What is in your body now that needs to be expressed? That can't be choreographed like birth.
No, that goes against so much of what we've been taught, you know, and I mean men and women, not only women. We've been taught that instinct is not a reliable source of information and wisdom. But that is very deeply ingrained in all of us, in men and in women. So when women get pregnant and they prepare to birth their children, they don't trust their instinct. They've been taught that this is not something I would follow. This is dangerous. It may destroy me. It may destroy this experience. This is not something I can rely on. So let's look outside for guidance and for answers. This invitation to look within, searching for those answers, again, that is nothing less of revolutionary. And this is one of the things I love so much about what you do, is that I see the small picture and I see the big picture, right? Because there is a small and a big picture to your work, in my opinion. So the small picture is already very interesting. So it is a method of using Oriental dance in a very organic, spontaneous way to help women go through pregnancy and birth their children in a natural way, and in a way that allows them to have this awakening, to open the door to a new level of consciousness. I get that, that's beautiful, but there is another level to what you're saying, and a big picture that tells us about a new generation of women who start to look at themselves and their bodies as sources of wisdom, independently of their pregnancies, the birth, you know, and this is nothing less than revolutionary. I had to say this before I forgot it. Okay, I love it so much. And before I forget, I have two questions for you from a dancer who could not be with us. She was asking me, Joana, please ask Maha. These are more exact, practical questions, more specific. So the first question is there any specific movement or movements of Oriental dance that should not be used, are not advised during pregnancy and the birth, or we can use all sorts of undulations, vibrations? Is there a no-no movement? This is the first question.
Can I do one at a time?
Yeah, okay, go for that one.
Otherwise I might forget.
Sure.
Yes. Now, I am always getting sent on Instagram pictures, movies of women doing belly dancing while pregnant, and I'm always horrified because I don't teach the kind of dance that I see, that I get sent. So I see women doing full-on shimmies of the hips and full-on up and down movements and jarring movements. There is one key secret to belly dance birth, and that is that all horizontal movements of the belly dance, so the circle, the figure 8 movement, some of the gentle undulations, spiral movements, they calm the uterus. That is what we want. We want a calm uterus. The movements that are up and down, vertical, jarring, shimmying movements excite the uterus. And we don't want that. We want to bring the uterus, the womb, into a calm, serene, peaceful place. Yeah. So that in itself will bring that blood and oxygen to our baby through the placenta. Yeah. And feed our baby energetically in a calm and tranquil way. We don't need to do those jarring up and down movements. So we don't teach any of that in belly dance birth. And that is why I have belly dancers come to learn, because they ask that question. Now, the second part of that question is, if you are already a belly dancer, okay, and you are used to those shimmy movements and some of those movements, you can do those if you feel comfortable in your body doing those. But I won't teach those movements as such. Yeah. So it's a choice that you make in connection to what is my body feeling and needing in this moment. Yeah. But they won't be part of the belly dance birth. We will teach the circle, the figure eight, the spiral, the chest movements, the hands and arms. Everything is about slowing down in order to feel my body and my baby. So when we're doing those movements, those more jarring movements, that's more part of the performance dance, a dance for the audience. So I say there's two language vocabularies of belly dancing. General belly dance is kind of, I call them the masculine movements and the more feminine movements. And it's those feminine movements that we take for belly dance birth. And then we adapt them for pregnancy and the shape, the body changing. So the growing baby, the stretching womb, the uterus, we need to bring the oxygen and blood into the body. We need to stretch the ligaments and joints as we move with the way our body shape is moving. So we're following the line of the body, the circles and the figure eights of how my body grows over that 9 months.
You know, Maha, I think also there is a confusion and an oversimplification of Oriental dance. So there are different kinds of Oriental dance for different contexts. So let's say the way I dance when I'm on stage performing for people is not the same as the way I dance when I'm teaching, or not the same when I'm dancing for myself, or when, you know, in each context, we will use different kinds of movements and we will get into different, I would say, we will open different doors. And also, we generally associate Oriental dance with an over-sexualized seducing thing. We don't associate it with the reconnection to the self thing, which is the base of Oriental dance. Actually, this is the base of Oriental dance. Then, of course, we can use it for whatever we want. Everybody's free. But I mean, there is this misconception that Oriental dance is not a tool to reconnect with myself. It's a tool to seduce someone. So there is this over-sexualizing, oversimplified idea that is very, very boring, if you ask me. It's very boring. It's not very interesting. So I think it's interesting that women understand that Oriental dance can be used for many different reasons in different contexts. And in each context, certain movements will be normal and organic, and your body will invite them in, and your body will tell them, this is what we need to do right now. And in different contexts will be different, right? I'm not going to go on stage doing a figure eight for 5 minutes because the audience is going to fall asleep, right? But when I'm dancing for myself, and if I'm pregnant, and if I'm preparing to birth my child, that figure eight for 5 minutes and going deeper into it and moving through it, and as I'm giving birth, using it to help me bring the baby to life, it makes perfect sense. So something that doesn't make sense on stage makes perfect sense in a context of reconnection or in the context of birth, which takes me to the question. And I think this is a curiosity of mine for sure, but a curiosity of a lot of people, which is, how was it to give birth to your third child, your daughter, very beautiful, to the age of 46, dancing? And I saw part of the footage because you share it in one of your courses. I watched it. I thought it was one of the most beautiful, and I'm trying to find the right word here, and chilling things I've ever watched, because I could feel the experience through you.
Mm.
And I went, oh my God. Oh my, she really goes, you're not afraid. You are not afraid of the darkness. And that is in itself a feminine power embodiment, obviously. And that is something that I think all of us, men and women, should learn how to do. How do you describe that experience? How was it using Oriental dance in that particular birth? I'm referring to that one because I've watched the footage. So how would you describe it? And what is the most interesting aspect or aspects of that process that you would like to share with us?
Well, she was my third baby, so I knew I'm not having any more children. So the intention, coming back to that intention that I seeded in her conscious conception was that willingness to experience everything. No matter what it looked like, I was willing to meet life in that pregnancy and birth and beyond. So first is first, to open to that intention. Now, the other thing is that I say in EmbodyBirth, the baby doesn't come out of your head. The baby comes out of your womb, out of your yoni, your vagina. Get down to earth. So, coming back to Mother Nature. So I say to Mother Nature, I speak to her, I speak to the trees and the moon and the ocean and the earth. And I say, I am willing again for you to hold me in your power. So I started that labor at the Tea Tree Lakes. We have Aboriginal women's tea tree lakes here in Australia in a place called Byron Bay, where Aboriginal women, Australian Aboriginal women, Indigenous women would go to give birth. So the lake is antibacterial, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, serene, peaceful place where you can hear the whisper of the trees. And so that being there brought me into the deepest nature of myself. I say, if you want to give birth naturally, go to nature. Be willing to allow Mother Nature to hold you in her strength, because she will. So with my bare feet on the red soil of the earth, leaning up against the tree, I just trusted in that Mother Earth would guide me and take me deep into my body. So I danced through the whole pregnancy. I made my DVD, Dance of the Womb. I'd done a lot of dancing. So those movements are just inherent movements. They are actually birthing movements when it comes down to it. When women are free and uninhibited, they are just birthing movements. So I just got out of my own way and I just allowed Mother Earth to hold me, to guide me in early labor. And then I just continued that into my labor at home. So I went home, went to sleep. I woke up 8 hours later with contractions. So what we do is we come into breath, sound, and movement. We have three things that we give birth with: our body, our baby, and our inner knowing. That is it. Yeah, that is it. When it comes down to it, my body, my baby, and my inner knowing. And I must trust those three things. So when I'm connected deeply, and when I have those contractions that I call expansions in EmbodyBirth, contraction, I'm not contracting, I'm expanding. So those expansions take me into the body. So I work with my body. I breathe, I make sounds, and I move. So it becomes a moving meditation. So Oriental dance in the context of birth is a moving meditation where I find the rhythm and the stillness in my body with my baby. So I come down, down, down into the pelvis. Listen to my baby. My baby is telling me, where are they lying? Where do they need me to expand? Do I need to put one foot up? Do I need to lie down on my side? Do I need to lean forward and open up the pelvis to 33% more? Yeah. What is it that I need to do? That's when the instincts kick in, because I'm relying on no one on the outside to tell me. I am self-referenced. I am a strong, capable, independent woman who can birth her baby. because I'm connected. I know what I'm doing as a mother. And this is where we go wrong. We never, ever give that faith and loyalty back to a mother and say, I am humbly here, sitting at the hallowed gates of your womb. If you need me, I am here. But I know you have everything inside of you, your body, your baby, your inner knowing. And the belly dance birth movements remind us of those three things. So we work with our body beautifully. There's no one telling me, you've got to go 1 centimeter an hour. You know, you have to lie on your back. You have to have a cervical examination. All of these things that women have so much fear about, because it's not coming from them. It's coming from an outsider telling them what to do. And then, oh, I have to do as I'm told. Yeah, I need permission to do that. No, at 46 years of age, there was no way I was going to hospital to give birth. Even though I was called geriatric and all these names, the doctor said to me, you better, book into the hospital because something could go wrong. I looked him in the eye and I said, Doc, this is my 3rd baby. How about this for an idea? How about if everything goes right? Mm-hmm. Let's look at that as an idea and possibility, because they're always looking through the lens of what will go wrong, not what is right, and we will support you in that righteousness.
And why do you think women are not allowed that experience? Is it just a business thing? Is this
it's
just
both.
because hospitals and clinics and the C-sections, they bring money? It's a business thing, for obviously. And what else? Like, why?
We are terrified of strong women in the world. We are absolutely terrified of women who stand in their power, not aggressively. And the people say that to me, you are so strong, Maha. You're so assertive, but you're still so feminine. Yeah. So what we believe in the West is to be strong is because we are under the patriarchy. So we think strength is aggression. Yeah. No, strength is living my integrity and living my truth and saying, I've got this. Yeah. But if I need you, thank you so much. I will reach out to you, but I've got this. And so I live from that place. Yeah. Because we put women in a position of being the underdog all the time, especially in birth. Yeah. You cannot do this without me. You won't be able to birth that baby. You will need a C-section. We will need to do this to you. And so women, if we understand the sexual body and the energetic body, every time we layer the body with fear, what happens? We contract. Yeah. So you cannot birth your baby in contraction. You have to be in an expanded state, whether that's physically, energetically, your consciousness, all of that. You cannot birth your baby in uptightness. We say in EmbodyBirth, birth upright, not uptight. Yeah. So that's why using belly dance birth through your pregnancy will bring you into that self-reference power, into that autonomy. You will wake up the wisdom that's in your womb. Every woman has it. It's universal. No one can take it from you. Nobody. No one takes it from you. You give it away. But no one can come and take that from you because it's eternal. It's universal. It's your blueprint. And belly dance birth connects you to that womb wisdom blueprint. Yeah. Every woman has that. Believe it. You have it. But you just need the guidance to find that there. Yeah. You're not lacking. You just need to wake it up. And when you do, that's it. No one can touch you.
In your opinion, what would happen not only to women, but to the world and the way we relate with Mother Earth? Because, and we discussed this in our pre-webinar meeting, and I think it makes perfect sense, at least to me. The way we're treating the bodies of women is the way we're treating Earth. And what would happen if suddenly this conditioning that we've been accepting that tells us you don't know anything about this thing called your body or pregnancy or birth, let us take care of it. If suddenly women said, okay, no, I'm doing it and I'm gonna own the wisdom in my body, and I'm going to follow it and trust it, and I'm going to honor myself by doing it. What would happen in your mind, perhaps in your dream, to the way we take care of planet Earth if that became a reality for most women?
I've got tears, yeah. My daughter's birth, Amina's birth, Spirit came to me in her birth, and I healed the father line. I healed the father abuse in her birth, okay? And I understood something in that moment when all of my labor stopped. My body was wide open in the depths of the ocean. Nobody stopped me. Nobody tried to do anything. They just stood in allowance. They stood back in respect and saw that what I was going through was a spontaneous healing, a very, very, very deep healing of all the women in the world who have been abused by men and the masculine and the way that this has been set up for us. And I saw it clearly in Amina's birth. And the message I got was, birth is a healing for the planet. Birth is a healing for women to rise up in our power. Yeah? In our birth essence. Not this bravado, strength. No, no, no. In a place of such depth of the heart and womb connection. And when we can birth to rise up as women on this planet, in this truth, there will be no war. There will be no destruction of the earth. Yeah? There will be no more abuse of women and children. Yeah? This is the true matriarchal essence that the world is craving, that the world is asking of us, for birthing women to rise in that place of inner truth and to not be afraid of the power that lies inside of you. And if there is anything that I can give to the world as my legacy, it is to tell all women to not be afraid. Yeah, is to not be afraid of that place that is in all of you, and to trust in that place and to swim in the depths of the ocean and to ask yourself, what else is possible as I birth this new soul to the world, these children that we leave to this world to change the trajectory of everything that we are seeing now in the world. Yeah? To be born into the arms of love, not to the arms of fear, is the greatest love of all that every woman can give to their baby if they can follow this pathway of truth. Mm-hmm. And that baby will know what real, true, deep love looks and feels like. Because when we are born, the imprint of oxytocin that runs through our nervous system opens up a neurological pathway between the midbrain and the heart. Yeah. So when we are in our mother's arms, when we are skin to skin, when we don't cut the cord, when we leave mother and baby together to create that attachment and that bonding and to seal that auric field for the baby, to know I am loved, I am belonging, I am attached. That will set up for life the imprint of what love looks and feels like. Not fear and anxiety and detachment. Mm-hmm. And that baby's brain will develop wholly and fully. Yeah. And that conscious at birth and the moments after birth of belonging in love will set the scene for a new way of human beings being in the world, not human doings, but humans whose hearts are open and ready to love one another. We have to do it through birth. Yeah? Not when the child is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. The moment of birth, the prenatal and perinatal period, the way we are born, sets up the imprint of love or fear for life. When a woman understands that, she will seek out the knowledge of this to change the trajectory of humanity.
Mm-hmm. That is so beautiful, and that rings so true. It's
Yeah.
beautiful because it's true, you know.
Yes.
So we're gonna close with a few questions that I always offer my guests. We would be here forever because this is a fascinating subject, and I have 1,000 more questions in my head I would like to ask you, but we have a limited time frame. And I would just like to finish, you know, with a reference that when we look for anthropological information, we will see loads of representations of pregnant women as symbols of the earth. We associate the matriarchy to this kind of images that brought the sacredness to the body of the woman, and who knew that the body of the woman is the body of the earth. So the way we treat the body of the woman is the way we treat the earth. This is not new information. This is very ancient. We have totally forgotten it. So there is a kind of collective amnesia here that I think your work is addressing. And I personally thank you for that, because I totally believe that evolution starts with birth. Absolutely. It's not when the kids are out there, it's with us, it's with the mother, for sure. Now, I would like to ask you about 3 books that you recommend every woman read. And of course, I have your beautiful book here. I've been rereading it. This is how I found your work, by the way, because I wanted to explore more about this side of Oriental dance. I've been on the performing, artistic, uber creative side of it, and I wanted to go into the healing and the root side of it. So I started with your book. I recommend it to everyone. I just went into it again. And aside from your book, and I hope you write new books.
I'm writing one at the moment. Conscious menopause, another whole area.
Oh yeah, I really hope you write more books. You have so much to share, and it would be good to have them written down, to have the written word. Aside from your book, which 3 books would you recommend us to read?
Yeah, well, this beautiful book, Birth and Sex by Sheila Kitzinger, is a beautiful book. And actually, she's written about the birth dance in there. So I'm in her book. It's a beautiful book. Birth and sex, very important. They're completely connected. But we in the West disconnect the two.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
And Mia Khalef's book, The Secret Life of Babies, is a beautiful book as well. That was part of the reading for my EmbodyBirth training. But yeah, it tells you all about what we've sort of spoken about, but in a very deep way, of the prenatal time of baby and the birth.
Who is the author? The Secret Life?
Mia Khalef, M-I-A, Khalef, K-A-L-E-F. The Secret Life of Babies. Yeah. And Birth and Sex, Sheila Kitzinger. Yep. And the other one, I couldn't find it, but it's called When God Was a Woman by Merle Stone. And it talks all about the time of Babylonia, Mesopotamia, when we had matriarchal societies, and how that changed 2,000-3,000 years ago, when God was a woman, written in the 80s. But one of the essential readings that I feel to understand the history of what's happened with women.
Sure. The author again, please?
Merle Stone, M-E-R-L-E, Stone. She's an art historian. Yeah, these are some of the books I recommend for my teachers.
Thank you.
Can we have the name of the first book's author again, please?
Was it Birth and Sex?
Yes.
Sheila Kitzinger. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you spell it out? It's not visible.
Sheila, S-H-E-I-L-A, Kitzinger, K-I-T-Z-I-N-G-E-R. She's written many, many books on birth. She's an anthropologist as well. She passed a few years ago. She endorsed my book. And she loves the belly dance. She loved the belly dance birth. Wonderful woman. She died a few years ago. I think she
live
aged
chat to share your questions. Otherwise, we will listen to your voices, probably just a post. So use the live chat for questions. I'm checking them, please. Okay. Now, what is the current project that you are most excited about? What would you like us to know about what you're doing with your work? What are you focusing on right now? Tell us all about it, please.
Well, because belly dance birth is an embodied experience, I've always resisted going online with it. I found it very, very hard because I come from before internet and social media and all of that, but I've had to catch up with technology. And 10 months ago, I started to write my EmbodyBirth, Unlock and Awaken Your Ancestral Womb Wisdom, Pregnancy and Birth Preparation online course. And we launched it 2 weeks ago, just as the COVID-19 lockdown happened. But I'm very, very excited because I've put all my words of wisdom into this online program to unlock and awaken your ancestral womb wisdom. So 26 videos, 8 slideshows, some audios, activities to do, and all of the belly dance birth dances are in that program as well. So I'm very excited. So this year will just be about marketing that. And in the future, I am thinking to maybe do a professional online training, but I'm not sure yet. I teach all over the world, mainly in China, but with what's going on, you know, I'm not used to the whole online.
You teach doulas, right?
I teach midwives, obstetricians, doulas, childbirth educators, but I was doing that for 8-9 years, specifically focused on birth professionals. And now I'm turning to pregnant mums because I believe they need to hear my voice.
Yes.
So yeah, it's time for me to go back to the pregnant mums and women in general. I do a lot of counseling as well for women, pregnant or not, just like life coaching and life counseling. And your relationships, work, any problems, anything. I'm good at it.
Guys, we have a special discount for Maha's new course. You're going to receive it in the email after the webinar. When you have the replay, you also have the promotion. Take advantage of it. I assure you, you will love it. I've done your previous course, and it has made me fall in love with Oriental dance all over again. It has made me fall in love with the subject that I believe really it's the most important subject that we can think of. It's not only about pregnancy and birth, it's really about how we treat women and the planet.
Yes.
For me, that's like non-negotiable. And the way we are so obviously seeing it now, come on, you know, you would have to be totally blind to ignore the signs of this awakening proposal here.
Yes.
Last but not the least, what would you say each of us can do today or from today to dignify women? I usually ask to dignify Oriental dance, but in your case, I think it makes more sense to ask you, what do you think each woman, pregnant or not pregnant, can do from today to dignify women?
What I would say to every woman is that the living book is within. Read her, trust her, connect to her. And whatever it is that you hear, see, intuit, listen to that message. And as we say in EmbodyBirth, birth through your fear, not in fear. So this is a practice of awareness, connecting with that living book within, yeah, listening to her. You are always rewriting the new chapters, but follow her guidance and just witness yourself and see your reactions and actions and choices and behaviors. But the living book is within, yeah. Read her, trust her, she will guide you. And dance, improvisational self-reference dance. I dance every day. Put on a piece of music, energy in motion, emotion. Let it go, let it out, express it. So that living book can be expressed through dance, definitely. Yeah.
Wow, very.
I had a question for Joanna. Is there any possibility of getting the recording too?
Guys, please use your live chat. Sorry to insist, because this is being recorded and I really want it to be clean and clear to you. Ani, can you please share your question in the live chat? Can you write it down, please?
Yes, I wanted to know if this
In
recording
the
might
live
be
chat, in the live
available.
chat. Can you write it down and switch off your mic? Is there any other questions, guys, that you would like to share with Maha? I've been reading your questions and we have addressed them, okay, in one way or another. So I've been reading your comments and questions. Is there anything related to Bellydance for Birth that you would like Maha to clarify? Yes, you can get the recording, guys. You have always access to the replays of my webinars. I record everything. The replay will be sent to you via email a few hours after we close the live session, always. So yes, you will have access to the recording. Is there anything else you would like to share or ask? If not, I am going to thank Maha again. For me, this is more than sharing a theme or sharing your work. It's really about a kind of revolution. I use that word intentionally, okay? A kind of revolution I think we desperately need. And by we, I don't mean only women, I mean the world. So I thank you personally for your work, for your existence, for your courage, for having the integrity to do what you know is right, independently of opinions and whatever. That's a kind of integrity we don't see often, and something that I personally admire and respect deeply, deeply. So I bow to that and thank you, okay?
Thank you.
You are most welcome. Beautifuls, we have to go. I love you, Maha, much love. It was really an honor to host you, okay? And
Mama stay. Mama stay, we say in EmbodyBirth.
Mama stay, it's beautiful. Mama stay. Ladies, I hope this was inspiring to you. Again, you're gonna have a freebie from Maha and you're gonna have the discount, a special discount for her new course. We've already shared a few resources. So there is another very beautiful author, Morocco, my big friend. She has written about Bellydance for Birth and she has referenced Maha's work to me several times actually. So you have a lot of information to come from. I hope this helped you in any way, okay? We will see each other soon. Bye-bye.